Tengen is sus. In my opinion, Tengen is sus, and especially from the chapters 145, 146, we got some information that makes Tengen very suspect in the story. His main goal at this moment in time, of him being a mortal being, his main goal is to live. However, a lot of things that he has said and done contradicts his main goal of living, as well as being impartial to the Jujutsu world. And in this video, I'll be talking about first, him being suspect, and then a little bit in defense of Tengen, and then things I'd like to see in relation to Tengen going on in the future. But first, let's go with the first thing, and we'll start off with his very first thing that we got back in the hidden inventory, which is to do with the plasma vessels. And with Toji preventing the merger of Tengen and the Star Plasma Vessel, this is the first time in 1,500 years, I believe, that Tengen has not merged, and has caused him to become more cursed-like. Because of this, he's now a target to Kenjaku's curse manipulation, and this is the first thing which I think was suspect. The introduction to way we were brought in about Tengen is that we need a Star Plasma Vessel to prevent Tengen from dying. However, that was posed as contradictory when we realized Tengen's still alive even when the Star Plasma Vessel died. Secondly, we only assumed that this specific vessel had to be the person to merge with Tengen, but then now with more information we realize other people can. However, it has to be specific kind of conditions to do so. However, this is where I think he becomes suspect. If he knew this information, why did he not relay this with the Jujutsu High members? He wants all these people to protect him, however he's giving them limited information, would not be in the best interest of the Jujutsu High members and himself. I mean, him not necessarily saying stuff as part of the plasma vessel and the potential of what would happen once he has evolved. He has contradicted himself and made sure that his main goal of being saved and living isn't necessarily being carried out. Similarly, it has now made him a prime target for Kenjaku. I feel as if his passive approach in the story is contradictory to him now deciding to ask for help. The second is the prison realm. Well, in chapter 145, we realized that he knew that the prison world was out of the seas, and he can obviously see it with his barrier. However, with now giving us the back of the prison realm to potentially free Gojo, he seemed to have supported us. But this is the weird thing, and it's another contradictory to why I think he's suspect. If Tengen knew about the prison realm, we also know as the audience about how far back Kenjaku mentioned the prison realm. We're going back to before pre-Shibuya, when he's talking with the disaster curses, saying that they need to seal Gojo with this prison realm to enact their plan. So if Tengen, with how he has said himself that him has become one with the barriers so he can see all the stuff within the barriers, he would have seen that Kenjaku now has the prison realm and maybe could have then mentioned it to somebody in the Jujutsu world. We know that he has a good relationship with the Jujutsu world in the fact that he's built the foundations and he wants to live his life to protect the barriers and support the Jujutsu world. But he also has been very contradictory, because these seems like important things that if he had notified these people, they could have prevented to enact his plan of staying alive. Why did he not do more in terms of telling the people about Kenjaku having the prison realm? It's another indication to show that his actions are not being in the best interest of him surviving, especially if we can infer that Gojo not being alive has a bigger implication to him. I mean, we can infer that just from the brief indication that it does. The whole CUlling games has started because Gojo has been sealed, and we know with the fact that Kenjaku could not defeat previous Six Eyes users, so this has put him in a favorable situation to enact his plan. He's now a big prime suspect to somebody who is the second strongest in barrier techniques, meaning that he can eventually take over from Tengen, and we can eventually get that worst case scenario that Tengen was alluding to. And then another thing to even boost with that in relation to kind of Kenjaku is now we know that Kenjaku in one of the most recent chapters killed or manipulated a lot of the Jujutsu High officials. So this is another thing. If Tengen knew this information, and we can infer that this happened during the period of Shibuya with the information that we got from the Kamo clan, why did Tengen not mention any of this to anybody? We could have prevented and helped somebody such as Kamo from before, then we could have got way more information in terms of our Jujutsu Kai members. I mean, them knowing something as important as the fact that the Kamo clan is now being manipulated by Kenjaku, the fact that so many of these officials are being manipulated, it could have helped with Jujutsu Hype members in terms of what strategy they want to do. Regardless if you don't think they can do anything immediately, just having that information is a bonus, and I think the fact that Tengen has restricted that information makes him more suspect. And my final thing that I think is contradictory to see Tengen misguided Megami and Yuji about Angel's location. He told them that they would be there, but we know that he was in the Tokyo #1 colony. And now that's another thing, is like, are you trying to help these people, or did he just not know? I think it's hard to say that Tengen didn't know, because he said he can see everything inside the barrier, so then why did he lie about the right colony? Like, there's just so many indications to why Tengen is just a weird individual, and if his main goal is to survive, nothing right now has indicated him to survive. I understand he's asked Choso and now Yuki to protect him, but still, a lot of these things could have been avoided with the fact that he wouldn't even need protection in the first place. However, now this would be the section where I will give potential defense of Tengen. So the potential defense of Tengen is the fact that maybe he just has no interest in the human world, and that is because of his evolution. Like he said, with the fact that he's become more curse-like, he has lost more of his human emotions, meaning that he just can't communicate with people in that regard. However, I think it still doesn't make sense for them not to have communicated with him. However, this is a potential way where we can see Tengen being in defense. Moreover, Tengen might have some skeletons in the closet that he's hiding. I know that him and Kenjaku have some type of relationship because they've intertwined in the past before. With him being from, if I'm correct, the Naya era and Kenjaku being from the Heian era, these eras will cross around each other, meaning they would have concluded, and with them and each of them doing a different type of education back in the past of Jujutsu sorcery. So I think they would have clashed to some extent, and maybe he's had some type of skeletons that he has had a reserved approach towards Kenjaku. Kenjaku can expose him of something that he obviously is scared about, and could be a reason why he's had a weird approach to Kenjaku. I don't think he's been in support of Kenjaku, but he's had a lot of his actions end up directly supporting him. And now we'll get to the part with things I want to get kind of tied up in, and then potential theory. So the first thing is, we obviously see that Tengen has 4 eyes. So I'd like to see that kind of explained, and to see what has made him and the differences between his evolution. It could be an indication to potentially Sukuna and him, with both of these people being human, having forms that don't really resemble those of humans. It could be some type of enlightened state that we just don't know of in the series and of things to come. Moreover, I would like to see his potential interactions with Kenjaku in the past. Him and both of them being kind of teachers of their respective ways of Jujutsu sorcery, they both seem to have huge influence back in their respective past. Their potential interactions together could be interesting. It could explain a lot of maybe Tengen's kind of POV now, and we could potentially see, do they have any relationship together. Final person I'll talk about before the theory is Yuki. Yuki and her, obviously, ideology towards no curse energy is another person who I think ties in nicely between Kenjaku, Tengen, and now Yuki. They all have similar properties and ideals in terms of doing curse energy, and hers with having potentially no curse energy removal, similar to that with people such as Maki and Toji. I believe her story is going to become more apparent in this coming arc. These are people who are going to collide, and it sense that Yuki has stayed behind with Choso because they have some similarities in terms of their ideologies, and I think it's going to be a plot point that I hope does get explored. I think the development of Yuki can be very important, and as well as it can tie in our main antagonist and potentially Tengen all into one big group. And then this will be my quick theory on the situation between Kenjaku and Tengen. With everyone assuming that they have some relationship, I'm assuming Tengen was a teacher who then Kenjaku was one of his students, and through that he decided that he did not want to go by the ways of Jujutsu sorcery that Tengen was doing, and then it allowed Kenjaku to go in his path through optimizing curse energy, and Tengen on his other path where he just wants people to understand Jujutsu sorcery, why he knows so much about Tengen and why he has the second strongest barrier technique. However, that's just my theory, and what do you guys think of that regard? So this kind of concludes, and just like, I think these are interesting things that have posed Tengen in a weird way. He's supposed to be this immortal being who kind of like oversees the world. However, his passive approach has not only made the conflict way worse, but it's gone to a situation that why does he now want these people to protect him? I think there were so many indications to Tengen could have asked for help earlier, and it feels as if he only responds when the conflict is now in a dire situation, which that is of course now. Regardless, I think Tengen is a suspect character because his ambitions right now have been contradictory to what he wants to do. He says he just wants to live and then put the understanding of Jujutsu sorcery. However, I can't infer that with the actions that he's done, and I'm excited to see what is next for Tengen in the story. If you'd like to see more Jujutsu Kaisen content, and thank you guys for everyone who voted on the poll. I'll be doing the offensive curse techniques and be working on that soon, so thank you guys for watching.